Hello, and welcome to the UTRGV TMEA All-State Virtual Etude Clinic for the 2020-2021 season. My name is Dr. Monica Martinez, and I am the Assistant Professor of Horn at the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley. These are going to be instructional videos that should help navigate you through these etudes in a more systematic approach, breaking everything down step by step. Feel free to email me at any time at monica.martinez@utrgv.edu if you have any questions or would like to set up a private lesson or consultation. All right, let's do it.
Just as with my other videos, I will continue to advocate these practice tips, chunking it up, as in breaking everything down through sections and phrases. Do not overwhelm yourself. Don't just play it from beginning to end until after you've actually isolated all of the different sections. You want to mark your phrases and your breath marks, and of course, yes, be aware that this might change as you start to possibly change your tempo and working on your phrasing. You might be able to go a little bit further. So in the end, as you start getting closer towards your recording deadlines, then at that point, maybe the week before, a week or two before, just so that you get used to what you have, I would actually recommend that you not change anything at that point. Again, it's just one of those things that's going to help you with consistency, and so that you feel very comfortable with what you already have marked down and with what you're doing to the etude. The layers of practice, notes and rhythm, pitch and accuracy are crucial. So it's very important that you isolate these things from the very beginning. Next thing are your stylistic markings, all your articulations, legato, staccatos, etc., your dynamics. Obviously with your recording, limitations, yes, we will understand, everybody will understand that it might not be possible to hear certain things, so try your best, just play to your strengths, try not to overdo it, always play in a nice controlled manner. Tempo, lastly, please start slow. do not go faster if you can't play it slower. Please be very, very patient. It will get there. So this first section is, pretty good chunk. You'll notice, pay attention to the key. You do have your recommended tempo. I personally feel this on the slower end of the tempo scale, but it can sound great whichever way. You'll notice the markings that I put. There's just little things that can maybe help, that you can isolate them separately, like you have these octave pedal C's, C to C, octave B flat, octave A flat, and then you'll notice that that section on its own should probably be isolated as well. Just you can try it slurred and then articulate it with a more legato articulation, and then you can start to get a little bit more separated. In the end, I do not advocate for you to play this super staccato unless you could do it in a nice controlled and clean manner, because I still want to hear pitches, tone over tongue. You'll notice that I did mark, you've probably been working on this a while, so you are aware that it changes to bass clef a couple times throughout the etude. I put, in my music, I'll put a breath mark even when it's obvious that you're going to breathe there, but I might put a bigger breath mark. I might put BB because I'm telling myself I'm going to take a really big breath, because you'll notice that I'm not going to breathe, or my plan is to not breathe until I get to the end of that phrase right before 22. And then of course you have these accents, so try your best to do these accents that are written, and then you can see with the arrows, with the sections kind of bracketed in the green, that they're very, very similar. They might not be exact, but you can at least see how there's material that returns. And then another bracketed green section at 14, 15, 16. I think it's good to isolate this section as well, because it's very similar, the intervals, if you look at them and compare. I'm all about breaking stuff down and analyzing it if in the end I know that I'm going to be able to understand it better, which in turn will make me play it better. So let's go ahead and listen to this excerpt. And again, even throughout your rest, you're constantly keeping the tempo and keeping the pace. You'll notice, just in case, because I know there might be something odd about the feel at measure 8, so I just kind of remember that you're in cut time, so that you're aware that that 16th note is on the last part of the upbeat, and then the downbeat will be that following C. So as we go to the next section, this is probably the biggest, most difficult chunk for obvious reasons. It's very colorful, as you can see. One of the reasons why I did this, I highlighted the part that matters in a way. Like, yes, the G's are part of the line, but I think it's more crucial to see the bigger picture. You're trying to bring out the notes that change. So you'll notice B flat, B natural, D, C, E flat, D natural, F sharp, G, and then it pretty much does it again. Very similar, and then it does a 3-note pattern with C sharp, D, E, C sharp, D, E, F. And then the next bracketed section I circled in purple because it's basically the same thing but an octave apart. And I just gave the recommendation of doing the F sharp 1, 2, 3 F side, in case you're not aware that that should be played that way. You'll notice I did mark the bass clef in case you're not aware of that. Same thing with the next line at 44, 45, 46. Again, we have these repeated G's, so they should speak, but the part that's more important is the moving line that's right above it, those moving notes. And then we have chromatic motion at 46. Notice how I have the arrow pointing about a couple measures later, where it's the exact same thing. Again, it's pretty good and beneficial to notice when things are repeated like that. I know when I see stuff like that, it makes me stress out a little bit less. And then kind of like in the first section, I put the up arrow, down arrow. That's just to indicate maybe if you're tapping your foot and realizing that beat 1, remember you're in cut time, so beat 1 will be that first note, and then beat 2 will be after the 16th note. And then lastly, the last section, as we start jumping towards the pedal C, just remembering again that it's the bigger picture, the notes that are moving. You have accents. Because this is a tricky lick to get, I would say that maybe try to get it without the accents first. And then again, depending on what your strengths are, and if you're able to bring out those accents. And it's not so much with your tongue, but I also try to do more pulsing with the core, and so I think more down towards the core of the body. And then you're gonna get different ideas when it comes to that little bit right before the fermata. I personally see it as I see that separate. But it's totally okay to let it go to the C. That's totally fine as well. So again, it really doesn't matter as long as you play both of them in a very musical way that caters towards the phrasing that you're aiming for. So let's go ahead and listen to this very fun and very difficult excerpt. yeah, yeah. I mean, it's one of those things. It's like a love hate. Like, I love this etude. I played it in high school myself. I'm surprised. Well, not surprised. Like, I mean, hopefully, yes, it does sound better than when I played it back then. But it's like, yeah, you just, again, always play in a way that's gonna make show off whatever your skills are. Again, tone over tongue. So notice how, yeah, I might have not been as forte, because I know that if I probably would have been a little bit louder, I probably would have cracked more. So for accuracy purposes, I did not play as loud as I wanted to. So yeah, this section, good luck. All right, next one. As we start getting back towards the end, we have a recap. So it's basically just like the beginning with some slight variations. I went ahead and I think it's important in the music, when you see stuff like that, that it recaps. Go ahead and make sure you have the same breath marks, the same markings. That's why I did go ahead and circle the same octaves, just so that you can relate them. And then the same markings with the upbeat, downbeat as far as when you're tapping your foot. And then of course we have the ever so popular upper D flat. I did give a couple recommendations. Me personally, what fits for me and my horn, I like trigger 1 and 2, but again, I would say try all the different options that you have and see what works for you and your instrument. You can see the brackets. I know they're kind of hard to see, but I put these brackets as sections that you might want to isolate separate. And of course, yes, I know it'll be hard to continuously bash your face playing the D flat. So in the beginning, maybe take it down an octave, just so that for ear training purposes, that you're able to hear and understand what you're playing and the intervals. Or if you want to play it on a piano or keyboard, just again be aware with the transposition. But yeah, so let's go ahead and hear this final excerpt. Oh, and lastly, I do have that breath. I like the breath right before the kind of closing section that happens around 85. So here's the last section. So obviously you can see that I took a little bit of liberty with time in that last line. And again, as a judge, I am okay, me personally, I'm okay with hearing things like that as long as it's subtle. So try not to go too crazy. All right, and then lastly, my more tips that I like to give at the end of these videos, isolate the main scale of this etude. So this one is an F minor scale. Use it as part of your warm-up to get you ready to play, get your ears ready. You want to look for those patterns. You have the repeated material, scale-like motion. Do not overdo the staccatos or fortes. Good sound first. Tone over tongue. In this one I put, playing in the low range, of course, requires firm corners. You even heard me at some point letting out a little bit of but hey, it's hard, but I encourage you to keep those corners as firm as possible, and they do tend to point slightly downward, more like a frown. So be aware that some of the jumps can require some jaw motion, but in the end, nothing should look really, really crazy. Always try to play with your best sound. If you need to adjust the range, as I mentioned before with that last section with the D flat, do it in the beginning until your range develops. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to email me at monica.martinez@utrgv.edu.